Hey witches, welcome to Busy, Gritty, Inked and Witchy, a magical living podcast for the busy witch. I'm Morgan, eclectic witch of almost 25 years, Avalon priestess, and busy witch. Here we'll talk all things witchy, from current metaphysical happenings to my busy witch tips and tricks, and everything in the in-between. This podcast is my personal journey, filled with my knowledge, opinions, and unique way of looking at the world. Join me as I weave the magical and the mundane in every episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Busy, Gritty, Inked and Witchy. I am Morgan, and today I am joined by someone very special. She is an ordained priestess, earth activist, healer, and author of numerous books, including the upcoming A Box of Magick. Please welcome Jamie Della.
Thank you so much for having me. Yay! I'm so happy to be here and chatting with you.
I am so excited to have you here. I first want to start out, we're going to talk about your upcoming book today. Before we jump into that, though, I do want you to tell listeners a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Okay. My name is Jamie Della, and I have never had a pen name because my first book came out and I was Jamie Wood and I was pregnant. People say, why didn't you come up with a pen name if you were so scared about being a witch in 2000? And I say, because I had brain scramble from being pregnant. So I've always been a loud and proud witch. I've been a little feminist. Growing up in the 70s, my mom started a million protests for teachers. I've always been an activist, a tree hugger, a dirt worshiper. And I had a lot of allies growing up. I had a lot of amazing older women who helped me find my path through all of their teachings that I bring together in my own unique way. And so far, I really have only had female teachers, so I can only speak to that experience. My experience has been in psychic reading work and spirit realm work, Wicca, Fae energy, Celtic energy, and even Native American traditions and ceremonies that I've been blessed to attend. And so that amalgam and Wicca teachings at the knee of my mentor is what I present and who I am, at least in the spiritual world, or how I present myself in this way. I'm a creative person. I'm also a potter. I do soul collage work. I'm always creating and, celebrating with friends and family. That's me. Is how can life be joyful? How can I bring more of that, my light, into this world and hold up a mirror for others who want to do the same?
Oh, that is so beautiful. And I can tell you that all that comes through your books.
Oh,
so it does.
Oh, what a relief. Because I can't insert my laugh, into the books or give the hug I want to give or hold someone's hand when you're looking at somebody who's trying to figure out how to work or create a ritual around losing their mother, or how to attract a new home that you might need, or the money to pay for rent, or whatever it is, with that look of, how do I do this? And it's like, it's in you. I promise. I'm going to show you the popcorn trail to your own inner chalice, right? And yeah, and I'm such a hugger. It's hard for me. Like, my books are hugging you, I promise.
Yeah, this new one is different. So basically, you received a 23-pound box of your mentor's notes, and that's what this book is about.
Pretty much. Yeah. So I had reached out. I was instructed in a psychic reading when my mentor showed up to get a picture of her. And so when I requested that picture on Facebook, her daughter responded. And then the pandemic of 2020 hit, and she was cleaning up like everybody else and found this box and asked the entire family if I could have it, because I was one of her favorite magical students and I would know what to do with the work. So it's one of those things, though, whether you're a seasoned witch or you're new to the practice, when your intuition is guiding you, but they're not telling you why, they're just saying, go this way, do this thing. And and you do it because it feels good. Spirit speaks to you in that quiet voice, not the screaming, yelling one, of course, unless you're getting ready to run into a tree or something. But other than that, spirit is gentle and insistent though. And so I felt like that was my reward, was following, asking for a picture, receiving the box, and then sitting with it for a year before I couldn't figure out how to do it. How was I going to structure it? There's so much, the witchcraft market for books is so flooded right now. There's so much material, so many people dicing apart the different specificities within this huge world pantheon that expands for generations and centuries. And so how was I going to fit into that, lexicon of work? And then one day I heard my mentor, Connie DeMasters, say, tell them about us. And we all hopefully have some teacher, somebody who's taught us something in life. So that's the universal hook, the universal connection. And my particular story is the personal and the human and the raw, the gritty and the inked. That so that I was adamant about including memoir this time in my next book, and I wasn't able to stay with the same publisher because of that choice.
Oh,
wow. They don't publish memoir books. They publish more like gift books and cookbooks, and they have a different market, and it's very specific, and it worked since 2000, and then it didn't. And what do? You have to find what's next. And I found Sounds True Publishing, which is amazing because they publish some of my very favorite authors that aren't in the witch sphere, that are in the, personal transformation sphere, the meditation sphere. The Clarissa Pintola Estes is one of I quote her in the book because I love Women Who Run with the Wolves, and they publish her. This was a shift that I couldn't have seen coming, leaving my home base, and then expanding up to Random House, as Random House took over the small publisher that I was first adopted into in Berkeley, California. Then it became Random House, and now it's Sounds True in Colorado. And this is the journey of being a creative person and a magic person and a witch, is following your intuition and the little, I don't know, breadcrumbs, popcorn. I like popcorn trail.
No, that is beautiful. That's an amazing story, an amazing progression and flow of how things ended up the way that they are.
It was really cool. Yeah, because she asked basically what came through, how words come through very specifically in readings, and then you like unpack it over months of time, So she said, take me on a book signing tour with you. And that's what she is. She's on this tour with me because she co-wrote a book with me. So, I mean, you can do magic from the other side of the veil, and it can go backwards and forwards. And I think she just wanted to show that, like Lazarus take 2 or something.
And I think that's the thing I enjoyed the most about the book. It was the format. So when I first got my hands on, they sent me a digital copy. Your publisher did, and I read the gist of it, and I was like, oh, this is like a beginner's book, and I'm an eclectic witch of like 25 years, and I was like, but it's done so differently. And I will say I immediately got sucked in. The book format it's your knowledge, then Connie's knowledge, then stories of memories and anecdotes between the two of you. And that's what I found I would stay up so late at night, and I'm a morning person. So my husband's like, are you still reading? And I'm like, I have to get to the end of this chapter.
Oh,
and it was
making me cry.
No, it was so beautiful. I could feel the love that was there and the energy flow between the two of you. And it totally came through the book. I enjoyed the fact when I got to the end of it, I was like, there's no more. It was so beautiful. So beautiful.
Oh.
So yes, I do the format.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That was really important to me. I felt as a writer, I wanted to challenge myself because nonfiction books are cookbooks. You're like, here are the ingredients. Here's how you put them together. This is what you're hoping is going to happen. kind of a thing, right? But you add the intention. So for me, the first book I ever wrote was the Wicca cookbook. And my inspiration was a book called Like Water for Chocolate, which is, do you know it?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
good.
I've read that one.
Yes, yes. Okay, so it's about how your intention is an ingredient, essentially, in this magical realism story. So I always say a box of magic is like Water for Chocolate meets Tuesdays with Maury, with the exception of the fact that it was a Greek witch grandmother and a Mexican mama, and learning witchcraft versus life lessons between a professor and a young man. That was the importance. Is I feel like with the memes today and social media, it opened the doors. It blew open doors for people to know about this nameless art and this secret society of witches and magic makers. But because the information came through like USA Today, like it wasn't, always really well presented, and memes don't have experiences, but mentors do. So it's one thing to be a witch at 15, another thing at 27, another thing at 75, at Halloween, at Ostara, at Mabon. You see something new about, that you mean give up. Like I remember one time asking somebody about Mabon and like the message that at fall we're supposed to let go. And I was in a relationship with someone who I wouldn't see them how I wanted to see them. I wouldn't see them as they were. I only saw them as I wanted to see them. And I said to my mentor, so you mean to like let go, like when you're on the monkey bars and you're kind of going from one bar to the next and you really have to like push off, let go? And she's like, yeah, like that kind of let go. I'm like, oh, damn, that's let go. And that's fault, right? You're like, you're going to let go of something, your ego, your clothes, an attitude, a story, whatever it is. That's how you live the magic. And that's what a mentor can teach you. And that's what stories teach us. And that's why it was so important for me to reintroduce oral tradition in storytelling for teaching witchcraft.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
I get so excited. I'm like bouncing on my chair.
So one of the first things that I loved, so basically as I was going through this book, and I had, like I said, PDF version. So I'm on my tablet with a highlighter tool, highlighting, and I had different colors too. So there was like yellow for things I found interesting. There was blue for things that I wanted to talk with you about, like when we met. And then I had red for applies to me right now. Make sure I remember this. And so I had different, So
I'm honored.
Things that I did highlight was this section, which it said, it doesn't matter what the magical tool is, whether it's a purple crayon or an aloe vera plant. If it can help you focus and take you where you want to be, then it's magical by definition. I loved that. So it actually spawned the question, just a fun question.
Okay.
Over the years, what's been your favorite, like, unlikely magical tool?
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. I'm going to have to, I looked over, the first thing that caught my eye is my wine rack. I'm like, a wine bottle opener. I'm like, that's not what she asked. So, but no, I want to take for a second just to explain, think of that and let that answer bubble up to me.
Okay.
Without having dead space. Purple crayon. I gave an example of how my aunt told me I could draw a tree with a purple crayon, but I was also thinking of Harold and the Purple Crayon, that childhood book where he always creates a world. Whatever he moves it, that's where he creates a world. So that was what I loved about the Harry Potter books was all the information that was hidden, all the treasure chests that you had to find in the book. And that's one of them. That's why I use purple crayon, not only because that was my kind of doorway into seeing a whole other reality, that a tree could be colored purple outside of what a good girl should do. Like, oh my gosh, but also how Harold could create worlds with a purple crayon. And if he didn't like something, he would draw something else. And we always have that ability to use a purple crayon, a pencil, an athame, your two fingers. I think maybe that's it, would be my two fingers. That is one of the most, like, that can be a magical tool. For years, I never had an athame. You know what I mean? You could try using your brush, and things like this, but sometimes your fingers is all you have. And you can draw out pentagrams with invoking or banishing different kinds of the different elements. So you have magic at you at all the time with these two fingers. That's kind of the first way I was taught, because 23 years ago, 24 years ago, when we were like going to the witch stores and I was trying to tell people, like in my books, where they could find these things, there was a list of stores in the back of a book that was only maybe 10 pages long across the United States. Now you couldn't list all the stores, so you didn't have the opportunity to get the magical tools as you would think, always, because of the availability. Mm-hmm. So that was, I think, that the two fingers and the purple crayon, and then the aloe. The reason I say the aloe is because I talk about in a Box of Magick of burying my son Kobe's placenta under an aloe vera plant, so hoping that we would still have this plant in years to come. But I really didn't think, I wasn't sure how long it would really last. It is robust here in the mountains 24 years later. It is also at my mom's house. It is at friends' house. This plant has babied and multiplied. And so that my son can visit his DNA wherever he goes, and he knows what it means. So when he needs a ritual, he takes from an aloe vera plant. I didn't see that magic coming.
That is
amazing. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
And so, it's those seeds that we plant that becomes trees that our grandchildren sit under the shade of. Sometimes we get to sit in the shade too.
Oh, that is so beautiful. That is awesome too, about the aloe vera plant and how he can just have magic everywhere he goes, pretty much.
And he knows to use it. You know what I mean? Like, it could be such a heavy hand to introduce magic in the early, when my sons and my daughter were growing up under my roof, with big goddesses painted, 6 feet tall, that nobody had that kind of stuff in their houses. People will, like, my sons in the early 20s, the girls I'll meet, they're like, have you heard of this Wicca? He's like, yeah. Oh, I've heard. I remember when my mom would put her, sanitation napkins in big cauldrons and we would water the plants with them. Yes, I remember, 2 years old. Since then, like, I've seen it all. Nothing shocks me anymore, kind of thing. So knowing how to be gentle and how to talk with people. I've had 23 years of practice of talking about witchcraft in a way that people who don't live it, or don't think they live it, or don't call it that, because it was called the nameless arts for a reason, because no one could say it's one thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about how we live in this spiritual world and finding each other. I this last weekend I went to a concert and I saw the first witch woman I met here, and we talk about how we would have to use code for so long, right? You would look at their necklaces. Are they wearing gems? Are they wearing bones? Are they wearing a gold cross? It's a dead giveaway that they might not understand what you're talking about, and so you might be able to approach them by talking about seasonal living, about seasonal eating, about a garden, and just leave it there, and finding those inroads to people. And we talked about how you would have to have a secret language where you'd look at someone and say, blessed be, and just wonder. And she would turn back or he would turn back and say, blessed be, sister. And you'd go, oh, I found another one. Like 4-leaf clovers in a mainstream world, finding a good witch.
Yeah, that's what I was around the same, or I started in the early 2000s as well with witchcraft. Mm-hmm. But we are I'm from the South. So backwoods Virginia. Yeah. I lived in backwoods North Carolina. I've lived in backwoods South Carolina. So we are talking in 2010, 2015, we're still, and I actually owned a witchcraft store for 3 years in the Bible Belt. I'm very proud of it. Ooh. Very proud of it. Even though it only stayed.
I'm clapping over here.
Yeah.
Hey, Three
But you
times
have,
three times three times three.
no, but you have to be very particular about how you go about things. And I mean, this just being in the South, they're a little
Oh,
behind
yeah.
the open-mindedness. So
Yeah.
yeah, even as early as, 2015 or 2013, 2012, it was something that we had to deal with there.
Well, that's why I feel like I mentioned the women's movement and other movements to expand our vision of what humanity looks like as we move into the Aquarian age, because this is, of course, that its realm is this expansiveness of what our humanity can look like. And so approaching that with people with different colored skin or gender fluidity, and then eventually moving towards chipping away at religious freedom in a way that it really means that people really do get to practice however they want to practice, and saying the word witch over and over and over again until they learn, hey, I can't hurt you with that word anymore. No, because I see it as wise. I see it as a person who can bend or shape the unseen forces. Oh, you do too? Oh, good. Thanks. And showing them how, when you're feeling nauseous, that's an unseen force. You bring lemons to a person who's feeling nausea, you change the course of an unseen force. That's magic. People do it every day. You just call it something different.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And finding the same words that people use. Like the other day when someone asked me, what is a spell? And I told her a spell was a prayer in 3D, and gave her the example of It's a Wonderful Life, where Deborah Reed holds up. I'm sorry, that might be wrong. I can't even remember right now. But that she holds up in a housewarming, salt that you will always know, flavor, and bread you will never know hunger, and wine you will always know joy, prosperity. Whenever we assign meaning to something, that makes it a spell. That makes it magic. And those connections. And that's why time in the craft deepens the practice, but doesn't mean you can't practice magic from the beginning. It just deepens your understanding of how it works in your life and with your own personal obstacles or shadows or dreams or aspirations.
Yeah, that actually goes right into the next little part of your book that I found very moving.
Tell me.
Yeah, when you are truest to your instincts and intuition, you are the closest you will ever be to God, the Great Spirit, or the Goddess.
Yeah.
And
I really believe that.
That is I think it's just the way that it was phrased so simply that you hear it so much, especially nowadays, especially with the younger generation of, oh, be your authentic self, be your true self. Like, we hear this so much on social media, and it's great. Like, everyone should be who they are. But this right here, this put it in a new way that I'd never thought about it before. In 25 years of being a witch, I was like, oh my gosh, like, when you are the truest to yourself, that's the closest you will ever be to the divine. And I was like, that is absolutely gorgeous. I think that it might be getting easier for people to do that as time goes on, and just society and everything. Is that something you're seeing as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant by all those other movements for gender fluidity or dark skin. It's also opening up, allowing us to see ourselves as the divine. I mean, I was reading a book a while ago about how it was a crime to paint your image, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. This was against the Bible. And how we've morphed, and how writing memoir became a thing, and having introspection, and now being able to see, wait a minute, God is all in all, and I am God. And really, but what does that look like? How do you live it? Oh, by being true to me, my own unique reflection of the divine source, because no one else can be me. And that is just something my first time I ever saw that was with Martha Graham's long phrase about being true to yourself, and just pinning different poetry about how important it is to honor yourself, because there are so many times when we get messages that we interpret as negative, and we hurt ourselves with those stories. And that's why I started writing the teen spell book, because I had to get all that pain out of me from my early days that I was carrying into my Saturn's return. And I didn't want to do that anymore. And so now to really say, like, literally every time I choose to rise up and be true to myself, but not give in to maybe someone trying to hurt me. Like, let's just say let's just put it in context. If someone was trying to attack you for something, but you have vibrated out of their existence. You no longer want to gossip about other people. You no longer want to date married men. You no longer want to, steal silver bangles from Sears. I did that, at one point, right? Like when you no longer want to do the things that you don't want to do, but your other friends still do, and other people still do, and you need to elevate out of that. That's being true to you. And sometimes recognizing that that's the most important thing, because this really is how you're going to live your life. You're going to move into some other thing now. You're going to join the Peace Corps or leave your job and become an artist or whatever it is that you need to do to follow your one crazy life. That is you being the divine in your unique expression. And the fact that, like, to me, and it was described in Sunday school to me in Christian Science Church. I was lucky to be raised enough in a church that was founded by a woman at the same time that, like, The Hobbit and C.S. Lewis was writing, Narnia and all this kind of spiritualist thinking, that we heal by seeing ourselves as the divine, and that seeing ourselves as that wholeness. I was raised with these thoughts for so long that I just applied it into the magic of witchcraft, which combines nature and the cosmos and our power and divine timing to braid like the Weird Sisters, right? And so we do that work with the divine, and I thank you for pointing that out. I'm not talking simply about it right now because it just means so much to me, that sentence, that everyone feels it. I really hope that everyone really has a moment to just sit for a second and imagine themselves as a ray of sunshine that leaves the divine source, the sun, and rambles on our own unique path, but is always connected to our source energy, is always connected to the divine. So where we choose to make that ramble, that's what I was taught in Christian Science. That's what I applied to magic today, is being that unique ray of sunshine. And also, for those with dark skins, a ray of dark light, a ray of darkness, a ray of introspection, and the importance of the mystery and the importance of the divine feminine and the yin side of things, and the rest side of our harmonizing between these two-dimensional way of living, so that we can ascend and be the divine in all ways, which has no gender, but is this fluidity of the God energy of action and the goddess energy of rest and integration. And we do that every day, and we just always seek the harmony of it, because there's not always a balance, right? Some days are super productive, some days we rest. Mm-hmm. It's a harmony between the two, not always a balance. And I think if we look for harmony, we can feel that in our heart, whereas balance sometimes is harder to achieve.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. I like that. Yeah.
Thanks.
The next part was I read it and I was like, okay, I want to know more about this. So this is a selfish question. You state, the art of divination involves learning to strengthen your inner guidance, then following its directive. Watch for the omens that you are on the right track. And then you go into how you are clairaudient and your signal. And that's what I was like, okay, I need to know more about this, because I found that fascinating. It's something I've never thought to do. Like when I do divination, I just open myself up, but I've never thought to do anything more than that. So I wanted to hear about that from you.
Okay. Thank you. That's fun. That's a fun question. So that was one example. The first time I ever really did that was when my grandmother, my mother's mother, died the month before I was born, and I never saw her grave until I was 23. And and even though we lived right there, it was too painful for the family to go see it. And so my mother, and so I went to go see it. And then one night I was so scared and I wanted to go see it. It was on Halloween. I thought I was going to do a seance there. And I got scared and I just, and I didn't go. And I said to my grandmother, when you need me, please send me the scent of old native California chaparral, because my connection to her is in this long family line, long matriarchal line. And when I need you, I'll spray your favorite perfume. And so that began this way of using a symbol of something to indicate I needed to look and pay attention to the symbols. I needed to like, oh, I can call to the spirit world by spraying perfume. She can call through me by sending the wind. Like we used to say, ring the phone. I don't know if you remember that when the phone would ring and we're like, oh, the spirits are calling. So that would be another thing I would say, please send, like ring the phone, send a knock, this kind of a thing. And another time is when I was nursing and I was so tired. I felt I was losing my sanity because I was so tired nursing my son, Skylar. I know you said you have a Skylar. And so you're in that kind of liminal space. And I just felt like I didn't know myself anymore. I had lost who I was. And I was reading Carlos Castaneda, and he talks about the fly that is the guardian to the spirit world. So I asked the universe, whenever I'm right on something, when I'm right on the money, send me a fly or a flying object right into my vision, come to my third eye. So I'm listening to the moment. And so I've just always kind of, those different things you could say, send me a feather, send please, a butterfly, or when a candle isn't lighting right, like, okay, am I not applying my passion? Do I need to invoke the goddess Bridget? Where am I right now? What are you saying? And listening quietly. And I feel like that's where you need to know your yes and your stop. So like when you walk into a room and you feel it vibrating with life, where does that lift the back of your head? Does that make you feel tingly? And, when you walk into a room that clearly people have been arguing and there's tension in the room, where do you feel that? So that what is the yes and the no, so that you can work with the different symbols to help you guide when you're on the right and the wrong path. Kind of like the cars that have those things that bump you back on to your path. I don't know if you have the electric cars that'll do that. I mean, not electric cars, but like you could put that thing on so they bump you back in. Like really paying attention to seeing the world as alive allows anything in the world, a hairbrush, to become magical. Because now I'm infusing it with my power. I am like Samson. I am radiant with the energy that's coming out of my crown chakra, which is how I connect to the divine, which is how I am. My body and the aura reaches the divine and the rest of the world. So for me, that's how I want to live. Mm-hmm. And whether it's, right or wrong, and we find out that nothing had meaning, whatever, that I had a really fun life, play acting. And I got a lot of sparkly things out of it. I had really cute earrings with moons on them, Yeah. And I just find that truth. And I find, like I see the chakras behind you, tapping into that knowledge of people who have followed this tradition for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And when we step into that knowledge base, it's like stepping into a river with its own current and working with that energy. I just, that's, did that answer your question? I hope it did. Okay. Yeah. Cause it's such there's so many opportunities to really, work with these allies, to create, like you would work with the fairies in a garden, or the food when you're making, or the energy of the apple as you're making apple cider, or whatever it is, like to really invoke and welcome, just like in like water for chocolate, invoke the energy that's always around you to add to what you're trying to create. And I feel like finding that confidence to really say, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Is also really important. It's how magic works, is distilling it.
The confidence.
Distilling your intention.
And then the belief that you're worthy to receive what you're manifesting, because there's
Absolutely.
nothing worse than putting in all of that effort and then having that, like, do I even really need, like, do I deserve this? Like, you have to have that confidence to put it out there, but then that ability to bring it back and accept it when it comes, because you did it.
Right. And yeah. And that's the thing is, if you're God, then why not take it back? Why not? I mean, like the energy, it's a reciprocity. If you see it, that's why it's so important to see ourselves as connected, because the minute you see yourself as separate, then you're no longer part of the energy, the infinity of flowing the energy backwards and forwards. That's why I feel like community is so important in the craft, and however you find it, whatever way it works for you, because that might work for you with animals, or colors become animated. So your whole life is yellow. It doesn't matter how it's done, just finding the connections is the hallway or the roads with which the magic travels.
All right, so the last one that I have is so in your book you wrote, to know the dark is to know the light. The witch is willing to be in either realm depending on what is needed. I love that. What would be, because I don't know that a lot of beginner witches fully understand that need to have, one leg in the dark, one leg in the light, and all of that. So do you think it's something maybe that comes with time, or do you have advice for those who are starting as far as getting to that point?
I think it's learning to be with fear, learning to be in the unknown. And that's where it starts. Because the minute that that people label the dark as evil, it's only because it's not seen and they're not trusting what they can't see. So that's really, really important to me. I spent a lot of time with a beautiful dark-skinned woman named Aresha Moon to look over all the aspects, all the times I wrote about dark, the word dark, because I have 2 Black godsons. I know how important it is to utilize the word dark in an empowering way. And so I find that I feel like young people, at least for myself and for a lot of young people I know, have a hard time being alone. And so if you want to know the dark, be alone, be quiet, be introspective, consider who you are and what you are. And recognize that if you are between 26 and a half and 33, you're going through your Saturn's return, and life with a capital T is no more. There is no more truth that you know. You only know your own little personal truth, because everything will be taken from you, will be stripped down to your core essence. And so that is the dark. That is sitting with yourself and realizing, what are you going to take forward? Saturn is the god of discipline and will ask you very directly, what is the sword that you will fall on? So you have to know where you, and what is that important mystery deep within you that you will always protect. And that is your heart center. And that is where the dark is beating deep within your heart, deep within your body. It's not out exposed. And so knowing that quiet, dark space is your safe place, and allowing it to slowly become a safe place, unpacking other people's stories, unpacking the doingness, and just sitting in your beingness. That is the goddess energy. And that is what Wicca has been trying to elevate for so long, just so that it would be equal to the expression that we're so easily doing. Even in our schools, we reward people who jump out and say, I've got an answer. Well, what about the introverts? What about those who are more happy in the dark? And so finding that balance as well, an expression of light or dark, and being comfortable in both, means you're wise, because you know that we live half of our life in the light, half of our year in the dark. So you might as well get comfortable. We sleep a third of our time. We are supposed to integrate. Mercury retrograde happens 3 times a year to make us rest and integrate and reflect on everything. And so that is the dark. There are many layers to it, but beginning by being alone and being with your fear. Fear doesn't hurt you, the stories do. Fear is just a feeling that will pass, like any feeling that will pass. But the story that we attach to whether or not, you shouldn't be afraid, you have to be this, you have to be brave, you're the strong one, all the stories we make about it, or I'm the victim, and it always hurts, or whatever the stories we make, that's what hurts us, but the feelings won't hurt us. We just have to sit through them and recognize that we are infused with goddess energy, which is why I like to always have people understand the tree of life meditation. When you bring up that energy from Mother Earth and let it fill you up like the sap, and up and out from the top of your head, like long branches of an oak or a willow, to the earth and back up again. You're never alone in witchcraft. So you can experience the dark, but you won't be alone. And that is what I would tell newbies who needed to know something about what the dark is.
I actually did not know that about Saturn's return. And that actually explains a lot, because I think I was 31 years old when I hit rock bottom.
Yeah, that's about the time.
Yeah, I did. So you said that, and I was like, huh, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and then you think about it, it relates to Christianity, which is always fun, because we can compare religions. It's always fun, or stories. That Jesus was, his master year was his 33rd year, which is when you come out of your Saturn's return. Coincidence? Yeah, the same kind of coincidence that winter solstice and Christmas are the same. So there's parallels, because they're in powerful rivers of collective consciousness. And they flow like in similar vein, to other expressions. But again, we just use different words, and we know how powerful the word is, because that's what a spell is, just to cast your word. You spell your word, you spell out things. That's what it is. And so every time we speak, that's our spell. But sometimes we add a little bit more oomph to it.
No, I'm really like, I don't know if you could tell, but I'm sitting here. I just have so much rolling over in my head right now, because I'm like, all of that makes, and then I was trying to think, I was like, where was I when I was 33? And I was coming out of it, but I was really figuring out who I was at that point. And basically I almost like a phoenix, like I was reborn.
Totally, 100%. Yeah. That's what the book is all about. That's how old I was. There's 3 years of memoir section, and I am literally coming out of my Saturn's return when I met my mentor. It was like, okay, now what? And then she says, the spirits tell me I'm supposed to teach you. I said, great, let's go do it. What do I do? What do I bring? Caramel macchiato and a maple nut scone. Done. And that's what I traded my magical education for, was Starbucks special. Now it's different. Now there's so many more people who want to learn. And, one of the things I always found the most exciting and frustrating about being a witch is that you are your own best teacher. So mentors are important because they reflect back to you the things that you might not see, and maybe they'll push you in ways you might not push yourself, but you will always be your own best teacher. And witchcraft teaches you nothing other than that. And that's why I love it. And I feel that's why some people find it dangerous, because there's not this, threat, our threat, and depending on whether you believe or call it the threefold law or karma or the boomerang effect or something, is just, we believe in energy. And so we know what we put out, will be now in the universe. So we want to live with the energy we're putting out. And so sometimes when things come at us, or we feel the need for protection, our best protection is to strengthen our inner core, so that our light, this is how I was taught, our light just becomes so big that it's just so expansive that if people can't be in your energy vibration, they'll walk away. And that's your protection. is being the truest you can be, which is back to being the divine source.
You're gonna make me cry. Like, seriously, that was
My
awesome.
hands were flowing.
No,
You didn't get to see this. I was like,
no, we're doing, I have just a small online coven that I teach. Well, it's not like a coven, it's an online learning circle, and we're doing protection this month.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
yeah, so just that whole thing of radiating your light so much that those who don't resonate with you, which I have a lot. I mean, I have people, that they're like, oh, she's too much. And I'm like,
especially during Mercury retrograde, you lose so many people, and during Mercury retrograde, you gain a few, but you lose a lot too.
You do.
Yeah.
I love that. Just using your own light as your protective shield to keep those who resonate with you attracted to you and on your level. Those are the people that are going to be close to you, but everyone else will be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and if I may give that protection meditation, if I may do that right now, would that be okay?
Yeah.
It's really brief. So this light protection. So this is how I was taught, is where you stand there as that tree of life, or is with that strength of your core trunk. And you begin by pulling up a lunar energy from the earth that is very much exactly who you are. If you know your astrology, it would be like your moon. It would be the chart, the lunar moon energy that only you know, that part of you that is secret and sacred and special. And it lifts you, and it glows from up from your toes to your knees to your hips. You can feel this energy, just silver light, encasing you like an egg over your shoulders and over the top of your head. And you are just in love with you right now, just you being you. And then comes this golden light, from your toes all the way up to your knees, to your hips. It's warm golden light, and it blends with the essence of who you are, and shines outward. It shines out, but it encases you up over your shoulders, up over the top of your head, over that silver light, and another golden egg. And then this is what people see, this bright light that you're pushing out there, that you're seeing and radiating. And then finally is this ice blue light that's glacier and angelic. And you can almost hear the singing of the angels, or your guards and guardians and guides, and whomever protects you on the other side, and all the different realms, as this blue light energy comes up over your hips, over your shoulders, and the top of you. And now you're encased in 3 eggs, a silver, a golden, and a pale blue. And you are protected, being the brightest you that you can be. And the only thing that we ask in exchange for this protection is for you to receive it, to receive the protection, to receive the goodness and the support that the universe has always got your back, and to give up the notion that you are separate, or that you are undeserving, or that you didn't earn this, but that you earn this by breathing. You earn this because you are a child of the divine, period. And that is the protection egg that I learned from my mentor, and I give to all of you for whatever situation you need. It's not just something where you feel like you're walking down a dangerous street or something. It's also just when you're holding a boundary, or you're feeling not quite yourself because maybe you haven't been able time to give yourself self-care, or you've been taking care of others a lot, and you need to just feel into your light again.
I am so grateful.
Thank you
that you shared that with me and with the listeners and everything. And I am so grateful that you were on here, like you decided to do the podcast with me. And I'm so grateful that
I was honored.
Yes. This was amazing. So yeah, just to kind of bring things together, tell people when your book comes out, where they can get it, where to buy it, where to find you online, all that good stuff.
Okay. So You can find me at jamiedella.com. So that's JAMIED as in diva, ELLA.com. And Jamie Della writes on Instagram, and Jamie Della Wiccan author on TikTok and Facebook, Jamie Della. And I have a mentorship program that I'll be launching soon, and a loyalty launch program for those who pre-order the Box of Magick, which is coming out on September 26th. So it's an awesome book. I really hope you love it. There's literally, I took things from a Box of Magick that were Connie's, my mentor's rituals, exactly as they were. And those are the ones that are shaded. You'll see a grand blessing of the Athame. And that's not something I created. That's something that my mentor created, so that you really are learning from two priestesses in one book. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And to listeners, thank you all for giving me a platform to have amazing guests like this, and for showing up every week and supporting me. So to everyone, I will see you all again soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you're looking for a magical community where you can just be yourself, check out my Ink Spirit Coven. The Coven is an online learning circle for eclectic witches who want to learn new witchcraft practices and how to easily incorporate magic into their daily lives, all while being supported on their personal spiritual journey. And you'll have me as your magical mentor, sharing my knowledge, answering questions, and facilitating the online community. Head to inkspirit.com to learn more and join. And if unique witchcraft supplies made by witches for witches is just what you need, head to my store, inkgoddesscreations.com, to see what we have to enhance your magical practice. We also have the Ink Goddess Creations box, a monthly subscription of magic mail filled with exclusive items that fit a magical theme. Head to the site to see this month's theme and sneak peeks.